Welcome to In the Room, where we explore the elusive world of casting for film, TV, and commercials. Join us as we interview directors, writers, producers, and actors, taking a deep dive into their experiences with casting and how the ultimate decisions are made in bringing a story to the screen. Get an inside look at casting and find out what really goes on in the room.
My name is John Williams. I am a casting director. And today we have Luca Pizzoleo. Pizzoleo. Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm actually doing Italian on Duolingo, so I'll get there in about 8 years. He is an award-winning filmmaker celebrated for his unique storytelling and viral success. With over a decade of experience, Luca has amassed more than 25 million views across social media platforms and cultivated a dedicated following exceeding 125,000. His latest short film, OCD, garnered over 1 million views on YouTube within 2 weeks and 17 million views on social media, solidifying his prominence in the indie film community. Luca's diverse filmography includes The Valley of the Moon, a 70s-inspired crime drama that gained a cult following and sparked a viral TikTok trend. The Tragic Death of a Frenchman, a dark stoner comedy. His work has earned numerous accolades with over 70 awards and nominations and has been featured in esteemed publications like Variety and the New York Times. Dude, I watched pretty much everything, and I am so impressed and interested to hear your journey and where you're specifically what you're creating and what you're doing and where you're going, because I have been thinking and saying that this model, depending on some of the details that you give me, is the way we need to go in independent. For the listeners, why don't we just discuss your journey, how it started? I've watched a bunch of your other podcasts, and I know that these guys were friends and all that stuff, but just so everybody kind of understands.
Sure. Yeah. I started out really as early as I can remember. I was, every time I talk to my mom, she always brings up, memories of me as a kid, always reaching for the camera. And I was always really enamored with old movies. I used to watch TCM with my dad, and he would let me watch whatever. My mom didn't let me watch everything. But, I just fell in love with movies from the very beginning. And I started really just making independent stuff as soon as I can remember. It was Lego stop motion movies was the first thing, because that was obviously I had no actors, so the Legos were my actors. And then I had met
so much
Raj,
easier those Legos. So much.
No,
easier.
I know they're easier to yell at. No, but yeah, I had met Roz, who's in OCD and a lot of the other stuff as the lead. I met him in middle school, and I met him on Xbox. We were just playing Call of Duty. It was completely random. We were just like two kids. It was like straight out of Step Brothers. And so it was, I feel like my filmmaking journey has just kind of been this long thing throughout my entire life, and I say I've had over like a decade of experience, and I'd say a decade is probably about right, of like when I started being like, okay, I'm going to seriously start making shorts and really dive into everything and immerse myself completely. But yeah, I really started as young as I can remember.
And I imagine this, from what what I've seen, the 70s sort of like movies seem to have a big influence.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who? Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, man, the 70s is always a time that I jump back into with movies. I just saw, have you seen Scarecrow with Gene Hackman?
Mm-mm.
Dude.
Oh, wait, yeah, I have. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Hackman and Pacino, they just have such a chemistry. I mean, they were roommates.
Sure. And now, because we lost Hackman, that I think everyone's kind of looking back and watching some of his stuff.
Oh yeah, dude. It kind of got me to go back, because I had never seen the movie, and I only know it through a story about them being roommates, and yeah, I think there's just something about the 70s that was so interesting. You had movies like Easy Rider, which don't typically, they don't follow the norm of what movies are today, and I think a lot of movies that come out now are very structured and they have to be a certain way, and they don't really take risks a lot of the times anymore. Not saying every movie, obviously. I think the indie space is great, and I think a lot of people and even sometimes, obviously, big studio movies are taking big swings. But I definitely think it was different.
Well, that
back
was the
then,
age of
for sure.
Robert Evans. That was the age of like the studios actually believing in the Coppolas and the Scorseses and
Yeah,
in putting talent and ideas first as opposed to IP and box office, right?
right.
And so that kind of is what's interesting to me because we, in our sort of position as independents, are now having to just take it and put ideas first.
Yeah. Dude, it's so interesting because, yeah, exactly like you said, back in the day, they would take a risk on a filmmaker and make something new and fresh, and then it would catch on. And then now it's like a lot of those movies just would never be made. I mean, even looking at something like Apocalypse Now, it's like, how could you get that made nowadays? It's so, unless you have this
Well,
and that.
look at his, France's last film, right? And it was a huge swing that he had to pay for,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know?
yeah. I mean, how like acclaimed Coppola is as a filmmaker, and no one was willing to take that bet. Obviously, I didn't see Megalopolis, but I do respect the swing he took in making something completely different and not norm, which I do really appreciate.
There is value in what it seems that we've lost in that. There's value in expanding the art form and not just duplicating or repeating, because then it allows for this space for creativity, which is what I feel like we've lost.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. When you talk to people now and you have an idea for a film, they always ask, what is it like? Is it like Avatar meets this and this and that?
Totally.
They always need a comp for something rather than just, this is its new own fresh thing. Not to say that there isn't, inspirations that you could pull from, but it's like you can't really do that anymore.
So when you started getting into this world, I'm gonna say, dude, everything that you have, like your site, the on OCD, you had Stephen Ogg in there, and you gave him that gift, which was incredible and so like
Oh yeah,
put
the crew
together
gift.
so well, right? Like everything, even from when I was watching it, even though you don't, and maybe it's because I watched so many in a row, but your actors aren't recognized known names or stars, right? But it doesn't.
Right.
It still feels like you're watching a high budget movie, right? And
Thank
it has
you.
that feel to it. And so I'm wondering, one, about how you built your audience, and two, how you're getting your ideas and getting. Is it based on like a location you can get, or also to the funding? And I want to know about how you've built this whole
Sure.
world.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with kind of the audience. In terms of the audience, it was something that is relatively new. So I had started TikTok about, I would say, 2 years ago. And it was within the first month, I found a trend that was kind of working for other filmmakers. And I was like, let me jump on that and kind of like showcase my work and use it as a portfolio, because I was really against TikTok at first. I was like, I don't want to do social media. I don't want to do TikTok. And then
Why were you against it?
I don't know. I think, a lot of people who post on TikTok, there's this sort of people obviously think that it's for vanity. And I think, when I see some people and they're like in a director's chair and they're taking a picture on a short film, I feel like a lot of the times, and it's not to say everybody, but just that I focus more so on the film than I do on the social media element. So I never really had thought about doing anything with social media, because I was just so focused on being like, oh, I'm the artist, I need to focus on this and not focus on that. But it kind of took a perspective
It
switch.
feels ego driven, right? It feels like
Yeah,
you're showboating. Look at me, look what I'm
exactly.
doing. Yeah,
And I don't like that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not that type of person. I mean, I don't typically like talking about myself and being like, oh, these are my accomplishments, so I'm happy you read those off, because I would not have done that. And yeah, with TikTok, I had started it, and the way that I looked at it was that it could be a place, like a portfolio. And so that's kind of how I tackled it. And within the first month or two, I think I had about 20
hold on
or
one second before we get there.
30,000.
What
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
goal of doing that? Was it to sort of like attract the attention of maybe the normal Hollywood, or like saying, hey, this is how I can maybe get a job? Or
I mean, it's everything. You hear from so many people, and even people in the industry doing interviews, like you need to have followers before you can even be taken seriously nowadays. And I figured, well, I might as well start just to see. If it fails, whatever. But I do think indie films kind of live and die on the audience and who can see them, because you look at things like even with OCD, we're at like 1.7 million views. And if you can take that into a pitch room and showcase, hey, there's this amount of attention on it on YouTube, and I think we have like 20 something million on TikTok, that says that there's like a built-in audience that already is interested in the idea. Because I feel like a lot of studios now, or people in general, aren't willing to take risks on things that you need to make them as sure as possible, from my understanding. And obviously, I'm still trying to break into the feature space, but just from people that I have met and talked to, and the research that I have done. But yeah, that's essentially why I had started the social media push. And as I was saying, like a few months in, I had like 30,000 followers, and it was like as soon as I hit that, I was reached out to by a manager at Range Media, and they brought me in to go meet with them and a couple other managers. And then I have met my current manager, who was at UTA at the time, and he's now at Range. But it was like the doors completely opened the second I started it. And like I said, I've been doing film and everything for at least like 10 years, and doing the festivals and doing the Oscar qualifying film festivals. And it's not to say that you don't meet great people, because you do, but I think there is a difference, like a massive difference.
There's no option, right? Other than that
Yep.
trajectory, which I don't think really, I think that's even dying. That like it used to be, you get into Sundance, you get that stamp of approval,
Right.
you're going to get your film sold, everyone makes, and now I think it's just a marketing tool for all these people to collect the stamps, so that it sort of gives, when they do put it out on streaming, it just maybe convince people to click that.
Right. I
Like-
mean, dude, I have buddies who've been into Sundance, and they're like, it didn't do much. And it's not to say that it doesn't do things for other people, but it is definitely different than how it was maybe 15, 20 years ago.
I mean, and this might not be exact numbers, but I think we were at we were at Toronto. We were one of the films that sold, but out of like 200, like 10 sold.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is
Crazy.
why I'm so interested in what you're doing. And we might discuss, and you might have a different idea of where you're going, but like the only way I see to get attention and get these eyeballs for films is social media, is to bring attention to it. Because other than that, you're just with a bunch of other filmmakers that are trying to get their stuff going. And it's great because you get a community, but you're not reaching a mass audience.
It is exactly that. I couldn't agree more, honestly, and that's kind of how I am now, and where my mindset has kind of shifted is like focusing on social media to some extent. I think when I'm making a movie, I'm just focusing on the movie. My girlfriend was on set, so she was recording all the BTS, so I didn't have to focus on that, because I don't think I could have done two things at once. And then after I would just make content, and I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what connects with audiences on social media, whether that be on Instagram or TikTok. And that has just not only boosted my built-in audience, but just also the amount of people, like I said, the manager that I had met first before I met my manager that I'm with now, he found me on TikTok. And my manager that I'm even with now told me, he's like, I just scroll TikTok. And he goes, and I see who's there. And if there's an actress, I'm contacting her. If she's got an audience, I'm contacting her. It's completely different. And you kind of do have to take advantage of it.
Is that manager's then ideology to get you into the traditional system at that point?
I definitely. Where I want to be is, obviously I want to be in the feature space. And so I'm trying to transition and go from, okay, now I have this kind of audience. How can I use this to pitch our feature to a studio or something, and be able to get a movie made? I mean, ideally, I wouldn't like to do TikTok and social media, for the rest of my life. It's just sort of something that I'm utilizing as a tool now to kind of get myself in front of people who otherwise, you really can't get in front of.
Why is that, you think, still your path? Knowing what you know and seeing what you're seeing and seeing what's happening in the industry, why do you, and this is where I think I want to discuss, like, I think there's a new path. I think there's a new way. And so is it just because you haven't thought of another way to get that done? Or is it like I would like to go a different way and not rely on this system, but I don't know how to do it.
I think it's that. Like, I would like to just go the traditional route or whatever that was maybe 20 years ago. That is what I always had kind of wanted to do. I think my mind as a younger filmmaker was always get into Sundance, get into TIFF, and you're good. That's all you need to do. And now it's just not the case. So I do definitely understand the power of social media for firsthand, most definitely. But it's just more something that in the future, I would obviously like to kind of teeter away from that and just focus on the movies, because that is where my passion lies. But utilizing it as a tool to get where you want to get, I think, is the way to go.
Have you ever thought about how to convert all these eyeballs into like a paying platform or like some sort of type of like, because what I'm seeing and what I think is available to you and what the new path might be, like taking influence. I'm not saying that any of us want to be on social media, but it's that's our trailer. That's our audience. How do we convert them into paying customers? It's like, an influencer's able to do it with 2 seconds, right? I saw a clip of Scorsese the other day and he goes, you guys are in the best time. It doesn't matter if you have a 900-minute piece or a 2-minute piece. It's about keeping attention, which I think you're phenomenal at, right? And the quality is phenomenal, right?
Thank you.
So my interest is, how do we bypass, because I can tell you firsthand, man, we've built like the model and we've built the movies that are based on that old way, and it's not producing because of the streaming aspect of it. You don't get butts in seats. So you don't get VHS, you don't get DVD. So it's near impossible, right? To have that old dream of like, we're going to get something out and we're going to make all this money and it's going to be a huge success. So to me, the trailer now is the social media. How do we get them into the seat or into paying so that they could support, this?
I mean, dude,
the same, right? Sure. The same of your director's name, right? And that's they're like, oh, I'm gonna go see it. It's made by this guy,
Right. No, I mean, dude, it's so true, and being able to utilize social media in that way to try and find them, it is definitely something I've thought of in the past. I mean, with OCD, and that was my latest release, there was definitely that thought process behind of where I think I do have enough of a built-in audience that I could have transitioned that into some sort of platform where maybe I could have charged for the movie or whatnot. But I think kind of where I'm at now is I just want as many people to see it as possible. And I think the more eyeballs, the more attention I can get on the thing that I'm making, then I can find somebody who's scrolling YouTube late at night, who's a big producer, who's a big agent, who's a big manager, whatever it may be. And they see those things and they go, oh, wow, okay, this is very cool. And I'm just putting this out there to the world. And that's kind of how my philosophy has always been, is just put everything out. But obviously, in terms of transitioning to that into something monetizable, I don't disagree. I think it's something that it is definitely to think about and moving forward for sure.
I mean, have you seen like that speech by Duplass where he says the cavalry's not coming? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
And and then Robert Rodriguez just announced the other day that he's crowdfunding. Like, I believe like it's gone. Like that model.
It's
model's
changed,
dead,
man.
Yeah. So what I would see would be interesting for you would be like, you put out the little snippets and the clips, which then drives it to somewhere that they actually watch. Same as the movie model, right? I mean, I guess you have to find out what that platform is, but I just see that. To me, that just equals so much freedom and gets us back to this place like the 70s, where we're being supported for our creativity as opposed to our, you know what I mean? Because I imagine the first thing that happens to you when you actually get in those meetings, and I don't know if you've had them, they're like, they want you to do their thing. They want you to do their movie, right? They don't want you to go in and pitch your great idea. They're like, oh, that's a fabulous idea, but it's not, we can't quantify that and we can't, determine some type of ROI on it. So we want you to do this other thing because they think that's it, and this gives you this ability.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, it's so interesting. It's exactly that of, okay, you've already proven yourself in being good in this field, so let's take you out of it and now do this, which obviously is just not your vibe whatsoever. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I couldn't agree more that definitely a lot of the system is has an older mentality that I think needs to be updated in a lot of ways. I mean, look how many movies they spend $100 million and they go and put billboards all over the city and the movie makes nothing. And then a movie on TikTok that has been just so well promoted. I mean, even I guess I could use Longlegs as an example, because Longlegs really took advantage of not only social media in terms of like on Instagram, but even just on TikTok. And I remember seeing so many just influencers going, my reaction to seeing Longlegs, and they would never show it. And it built so much hype and attention around the film that it got butts into seats.
Was that A24?
And so there definitely was
that A24? Who was that?
I believe so. It's Osgood Perkins. It was a horror movie.
Okay.
It came out I think a year and a half ago, something like that. But the movie.
So A24 did this. They built a brand. Like when I talk to people, they're like, and I'm like, what kind of movies do you like? Oh, I only like A24. And so they're doing it, right? And like people will go, oh, it's A24, I'm going to go see it, right?
Yeah.
And they were the first that built it, I think, in that sort of old model, and they have huge development funds, and they've got they've got a powerhouse of stack of cash behind them, so they can do a lot, and they're really good on social media. And so I look at that and I'm like, well, how do we strip that down? How do we make this, because I think then quality and ideas and creativity again come back to, to being the thing that people respond to.
Yeah. Dude, most definitely. I mean, I couldn't agree more, and that's kind of why you and I are like even mentioning the 70s, why it just resonates so much today. And I'm in LA, and I go to a lot of these movie theaters like the New Beverly Cinema and the Vista, and all they do is play old movies, and it is sold out every single time. Every single time,
Paramount
it's
here.
Packed.
Yeah, they do it at the Paramount here. Yeah, and there's young people there, which is crazy. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You would expect it's just like I went to go see Cool Hand Luke, and I arrived 30 minutes early. I couldn't even find a fucking seat. I was like, oh my God. And it was an incredible experience watching that movie with everybody and reacting to the movie. And people do want that. I mean, obviously, we live in LA, or I live in LA, and you live in Austin. And so, like, these are very movie-centric areas. And maybe it doesn't translate, to like Milwaukee or whatever. But still, I do think people are wanting that communal experience of the theater, and they still yearn for that.
Well, you bring up two things. One, I took my kids, we were in Pasadena, and I took my kids to like the discount theater, like the General Cinema discount theater.
Yeah.
And then we were gonna go see Puss in Boots, and they walked in and they're like, we can sit anywhere we want. They were like, we don't have to sit in a certain seat, and I was like, yeah. And there was like nobody in there. I was like, yep, anywhere you want, guys.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's like I'll go see movies today that come out and at like an AMC, and they're empty. Yeah. It's just empty.
No, dude, I know. Like it's crazy. I tell my kids all the time, I go rent it out the whole place for us. And then you bring up another cool point, right? Is that like Milwaukee, the chance of them getting to see something that is as unique as what you're doing is near impossible, unless like, it's you're four-walling it and you figure there's a theater there, or you know what I mean? Right. And so it's like the chance that you now have to, one, worldwide with not really any cost to find your audience is just, it's never been like that before.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, people would pay millions of dollars back in the day just to get that sort of reach.
To get those many eyeballs. As many eyeballs as you got, yeah.
Oh, dude, with OCD, that was kind of like, I always had a plan about the marketing push after the movie. And I feel like I do have a good eye for marketing and what's going to work in a lot of ways. And so when we did the OCD social media push before the movie came out, I think we garnered roughly right around 20 million views. And also it's a snowball effect, because once your stuff starts going viral, then people start making videos about your thing, and then those start going viral, and then it just keeps going. And that is kind of a big reason why much attention.
If you charged a quarter, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like something ridiculous, like a quarter, you would have the money for your feature in no time. You know what I
know,
mean?
dude. It's insane, and also too, that is another benefit of social media and why it is nice is TikTok pays you, and in my opinion, they pay you pretty well. Like for 1 million views, you get around $700,
Yeah.
and if you can get there's people who get like 20, 30 million views, and they'll get that weekly, and you're just talking about these people are making hundreds of thousands.
Oh, I know.
A
I
year.
mean, I deal with influencers from casting and all that stuff, and so I get their rate sheets. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
Yeah.
how in the hell can you be asking this much, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what I just think like, and I'm kind of like so excited about this in you because I feel like you're so well positioned to do this, and I feel like once anyone does it and it's successful, everybody starts to believe it. Everybody's like, hey, this can be done. And
Yeah.
I've never come
Yeah.
across anyone that's in the position you are that has such a masterful sort of understanding of how you're presenting the website, the films, the marketing, the actors that you have. Like I just feel like this is the package, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but this is the package that could do it. Like again, 20 million views at a fucking dime.
I know, dude. It's crazy. It's definitely different. And like I said, working on films even just 2-3 years ago, and I would post it on YouTube. And for me, my love first is the film. That's just my love. And if the TikToks or anything didn't get any views, for me, it just doesn't matter. My heart lies within the movie. I'm happy with the movie. That's how I feel. And so even if OCD didn't do as well as it did, I still would be happy. But it's definitely nice for sure.
For sure. But here's the thing, right? Like it's such a hard business that you have to love it to do it, right?
Yeah.
And to keep doing it, right? And so few people, one, make it and then they're able to sustain a career doing it, And it's like that passion has to be there. And I think that's maybe what would appeal to a massive audience if they could understand your love and your passion for it. And it could help convert them into paying customers. And the only reason to have paying customers is not because you want to go buy a Ferrari, it's because you want to make more stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that has been whatever money I had made, we just put it back into the movie. You just put it back into it, whether that's a new advertising push or, film festivals, whatnot. That's how I've always felt. But I really couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah, and I want to get into what your sort of like model is as far as how to sustain this and get into it and not keep harping on trying to convince you to create a paying platform for this.
Yeah.
I just really
I'll
feel
think about it.
The person that does it is gonna show everybody else it can be done,
Yeah.
And I have friends, dude, that have been 20 years pitching the same projects, trying to get, and it's maybe gets, optioned or this or that. And it's like that I just believe that we have to, as filmmakers, figure out a new way. And that's the whole reason for this podcast, is to give guys like you and independent films that are they're all like, one, if you do it and you accomplish it, that's enough right there. It's such a hard thing to create. And it's not like hard as in as your life is hard. It's just a lot of work. And it's enjoyable work, but it's a lot of work. And then it's like to give a voice to be like, a lot of the films that we talk to might not ever see the light of day. Or get anybody on it. So, that's what I don't know. I was, when I delved into your world, I just got super excited about what you're doing and how you're doing it and the level of quality that you're doing it at. And then just even the storytelling and the filmmaking. The Frenchman was fucking amazing. In the Valley.
I'm happy.
In the Valley was amazing.
Thank you.
And then the little clips of showing, like the little TikTok clips of showing, like having to get the seat belt in and that being an issue,
Yeah.
And OCD, and what's crazy too, because even Gold, like, there is not, like, you've been consistent pretty much throughout. It's not like when you see people's work, it's like the first short was like, ugh, that's not good. Like you've been, and there's probably stuff that you're like you have because from early age, but. So what is your sort of process? One of the ideas I was like, well, he got that location, so he built a story around that location. Like, how are you funding? How are you putting these together? What is your process of being able to pull this off?
Sure. I for every movie, I mean, early on, I feel like it hasn't shifted too much. So it's definitely a good point about like finding a location, then writing a movie around it. I don't think I have particularly done that except outside of, I did a Western called West of Calico, and I made that during the pandemic. And that was sort of made because I was in a creative rut and I had not made anything in almost a year, and I just felt like I needed to do something. And obviously LA was just shut down. You couldn't do anything. And
There wasn't one
even
piece of
shooting-
production in the world. It was crazy.
No.
Yeah.
And even shooting that was like wildly hard to do.
We did one too.
Just,
Yeah, we did one too, and it was so difficult.
it's insane and obviously understandable, but it was such an insane time. And like with Gold, for instance, I had written that movie the way I wanted to write it, and it has been the same thing with Valley, Frenchman, and OCD, which was written by Connor Patrick Walsh, but still we worked together, story beat by beat. It has always kind of stayed the same. My philosophy has always been write it the way you want to write it. And then if, let's say, you write this scene in a diner, go talk to every diner. If every diner says no.
Oh, you got Mel's, which is great. You got Mel's, which is amazing.
Dude, we got that for free. They were the nicest people.
Yeah.
I couldn't even believe that. But it's kind of been that. It's just write the movie you want to write. And it was a piece of advice that I had gotten from a friend, is just like, write what you want to write. Don't like hold yourself back and limit the story now. You can make compromises in the future, but write the vision you have at first, so that way the story folds out how you want it to fold out. And then, you can change things if you can't get the diner or you can't get the location. But I've been very lucky. I mean, with Valley and even OCD, I think those were the two most difficult
Valley,
films.
you had that amazing fucking house.
I couldn't even believe we were able to secure that even within our budget, because Valley was only about a $7,000 movie, so it was really nothing.
You gotta be fucking kidding me, dude! Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, because this stuff does that. I mean, that's amazing, dude. Because the quality, I never thought once when I was watching it where I could see the hole or the gap, or like, oh, they had to cheat. They couldn't get the money for that, or like.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. Yeah, I feel like it's just been like I didn't go to film school. My DP didn't go to film school. It's just been this constant in our lives, and I think the more you do it, it's like riding a bike. The better you get at it, and the more you see, how to fix issues. And I think the best film school really is just making a bunch of bad movies. And to your point earlier, which I really appreciate, I definitely do have some like crappy movies early on that will not see the light of day.
We all do, right?
Yeah, they will not see the light of day ever. But doing those movies in the beginning is really what gives you a foundation on how to, work and progress and just like make everything better. And so we've really worked hard on the production aspect, because I think for me, I'm sure you could tell, like, presentation is big in my opinion. So whether that be my website, like I had made my website a few months ago just because I wasn't really happy with my old one, or whether that would be the crew boxes. I'm really big on presentation, even like the font. Like I need the font to be perfect.
It was that Steven, when he was kind of showing it, and he was like, "This is how you make us feel good." And I was like, "Dude, that's dope." Like and I'm like, "This kid must have a trust fund."
No trust fund. No trust fund. Dude, I've been like earlier on after Gold, I was really lucky because I had also done photography. Photography was kind of like a big part of my life early on. I don't really dabble that much in it anymore, just from time to time, maybe when I travel. But I was able to sell a lot of my prints to Home Goods. It was a TJX, the corporation that runs like TJ Marshalls and Home Goods. And I would get a royalty every time those were sold, and that kind of helped just give me a little bit of a seed to work with, whether that be, to help make Frenchman. And Frenchman, we made that, I think, for about $4,000. It was even less than Valley. But that was also just really lucky because my buddy, it was his apartment, and he moved out. So it was an empty apartment. And then I have a buddy at a Warner Brothers property department, and he was like, just come in, take whatever the fuck you want. Like, just don't tell anybody. And so we filled that whole, space in Frenchman. I kind of set dressed the entire thing. And also I think the other reason why the movies are so cheap is I do kind of keep like a skeleton crew.
Yeah.
I would definitely love to have like a set dresser and a costume designer, but I've kind of taken on certain roles.
Yeah. I mean, you have
to.
You have to.
You have to.
Constant, yeah.
You have to. Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't feel. And I'm even more impressed now when you tell me the budget size. Like, it doesn't feel Like, who's doing the color correcting? Who's doing the editing?
Yeah, I edit all my movies.
Yeah.
So I've edited everything. In terms of the color correcting, that was done by Ben Chakowski. And Ben Chakowski, I'm sure you can tell by the color grades just
It's
in Valley
amazing.
Frenchman and OCD.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And I
Well,
was
it's
able
like
to get
you
him.
have your sort of like your own style, which reminds me of I'm trying, can't think of his name, but yeah, you have this very unique style that is kind of consistent throughout, and it's beautiful. It's really
Thank
good
you, man.
stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I definitely give a lot of credit.
Guy
to
Ritchie,
a
that's
lot of
what it
people.
reminds me a little bit of Guy Ritchie. Are you influenced by
Oh,
him?
thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, he's great, dude. I just saw Snatch for the first time.
Oh, really? You just saw it now?
Yeah.
It's so good.
First time,
Yeah,
dude. And
yeah.
I saw it in the theater, and it was great.
Awesome. Yeah, the coloring, the editing, everything looks really good. And then it makes sense now that you're pulling it off because of all the favors and the skeleton crews. Yeah, I've worked with some pretty big directors, and we've been on set, and they just looked around. They're like, none of this is necessary. Like,
Yeah.
It's like you can strip it down. And again, knowing your budgets, you could charge a penny and still
And I still make the money back.
still make the money back.
Yeah. No, it's dude, I feel like I have met people when we started doing OCD. I also produce everything myself. And so when I started doing OCD, it was obviously a bigger project to tackle. And so I wanted to get a producer because I'm like, I just don't want that weight on my shoulders. I just want to focus on directing. And I had talked to a student from UCLA who was a recent graduate, and he was like, this movie's going to cost you $60,000 and you're going to need this, that, and the other. And I was like, dude, I can do it for 15.
Yeah.
Like, I know I can do it. And we were able to do it for right around 15, get the market. And he told me alone, he told me the market would have been 30,000, which it just was not.
Yeah.
And thankfully we were able to get the market because I had worked on a music video at the same market. And the guy is just like the nicest guy.
Well,
He's
he
like, "Come in,
trusted you. You didn't
know."
trash the place. Like, he trusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
did you guys shoot overnight?
We did, yeah. We shot. So we did 3 nights there. We did from 5 to 5, 3 nights in a row, and we typically wrapped around like 2 or 3. But it was such a fun time, and Steven got in there. I think we only had Steven on set for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
and he's amazing, as you know.
He's so much fun, dude. Like, you just tell he's like having a blast,
And
so free.
He does it for the love, and that's what I really appreciate about him. And when I met him, even sending him the script, it was just something he connected with, and he was like, I just want to do it. Like, I love this. This is a great fucking story. And we had met like 4 or 5 times before he even got to set. And it's something that I really appreciate as a filmmaker, because it wasn't just like, okay, he's getting a little payday, so he's just going to show up on the day and not put any effort. But he really is just like the best.
Yeah, I mean, he's an artist. Like, you look at his writing and his poetry and his book that just came out, and how he does his social media, which is super interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation, and thought he was a lot of fun. And then just watching him, I just think he's a lot of fun to watch as well, and seems to be so free and just like makes really, wild, fun choices,
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow, man. And so how did you get to him? Did you go through his manager, his agent, or?
Yeah, I had reached out to his manager and his agent. I sort of just put them in an email, and I was like, hey, this is who I am. We kind of have this social media presence. These are our like previous films. I sent them Valley and Frenchman, and then I sent them the script and a pitch deck for Steven. And I kind of just put that out there, and I was like, they're never going to email me back. And it was like the next day, they said, it was like 2 days later, they were like, Steven loves it. Steven read it, is like very interested, wants to meet you. And it was a shot in the dark, but I think that's like one of the best pieces of advice for indie filmmakers is just reach out to people and don't be afraid of what that answer might be, because I think that is what held me back a lot of the times when I was younger. It was even like with Mel's in Gold, I was like, I don't want to go ask them. I was like, what if they say no? It's going to be
That's all it
embarrassing.
is a location though, right? I mean, it's the one on Fairfax, right? It's just they use it for location. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I guess if they had a good month, they're like, give it to them.
Yeah.
we just had CBS in here, and they gave us way too much money.
Yeah. No, it's fun, man.
And then also too, to that, and I heard you talk about this on another podcast, you got Cypress Hill. I was like, motherfucker got Cypress Hill. Like, I was like, how the fuck did you do that?
The whole music game.
You got 2 of them by Cypress Hill.
We did. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah, I want to get high. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, with OCD, it was a little bit different because I getting that song was just very difficult to get cleared. The one on OCD.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
Which was
and I know about doing that because I've done it before. My dad's a singer, and I've had to set him up with all that stuff. And so I know how it's this monster sort of corporate sort of thing.
It's a tricky world, but I mean, even to a lot of people like ask about like YouTube, and it's like, and if you don't have the money, you can always post just something on YouTube. You could use the songs. It's just you can't make money on that.
Right.
That's the only downside.
Or
to it.
because a lot of times you're promoting the artist and they're fine with it, right? Because they're like, hey, it's getting my thing out. Or you just get like a cease and desist letter and they tell you to take it down.
Yeah, and that's like, what's that? You just take it down.
Yeah, you just take it down. So what's that process? Like, what was the process of getting that stuff?
I'll speak on like OCD because we got really lucky. I had reached out to Sony Music Publishing and I sent about like 2 or 3 emails like months in advance because I just had a good feeling about OCD. I knew it was going to do well festival wise and I wanted to get that cleared. And especially once we heard that we were going to Australia for South by Southwest, I was like, okay, I really need to get this cleared.
Well, the festivals ask, right? They ask you if your music's cleared.
They do.
Yeah.
Especially those bigger festivals,
Yeah.
they want, the documentation because they don't want to have any like legal issues. It's completely understandable. And I reached out and then I had a buddy of mine who's like my next door neighbor. And I asked him, I was like, hey, because he's a musician. I said, do you know anybody who might know who owns Jay Hawkins? And he's like, actually, it's so weird. Like I do. My buddy, he like works with him. I was like, shut the fuck up.
That's so
and it
like Jay Hawkins.
Yeah, like the most random stuff. Yeah, It's like, yeah, I love that guy, and
he's my stepdad, man.
Yeah, no, but we got really lucky. We were able to get it cleared, and then I was able to get back in touch with the initial email I had sent to Sony, and they kind of cleared that on their end as well. But it was we got really lucky with that one. It was definitely a longer process. It took us forever to hear back, but once we heard back, it was all good for like all the territories.
That's awesome. And did they try to like negotiate with you, or were you able to just get like a price, or did they give it to you, or?
Well, they had asked initially what my budget was, and I just kind of like I was like, dude, we really don't have a lot here because we've already made the movie, and also on the back end of the movie, just in terms of like the post production, because that's really kind of where the majority of our costs came from. The sound design, which I think is just incredible, was done by Ando Johnson, and Ando he's done like Spider-Man and like Mufasa and like The Lion King.
Yeah. He's
like top level sound guy. I've met him at a party, and I was like, man, I'm looking for a sound designer for this movie. And he was like, I was like, because one of my buddies introduced him as a sound designer. I was like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I just did Spider-Man. I was like, okay, I'll call you in 10 years. Whatnot. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to email him the movie, see what he thinks. I emailed it to him. And he was like, dude, this is one of my favorite shorts I've seen. Like, I want to do it. And so we were able to get him on board. I still paid him. I mean, a lot of the times, a lot of my crew, like Roz and Ryan, who are like the robbers, everyone, a lot of those people do work for free because they're like my buddies.
Yeah.
But typically I do like to pay. And if I don't pay, that's also why I make those crew boxes, because it's just my way to give back to the, crew members for working so hard.
Here's the thing that you can't do. And you're going to promise me right now. If you do make it through the system, you got to bring these people with you. I've seen it so many times where the director is able to get to where they get on the shoulders of all these people. But it's not that they're bad people. They just don't have the ability because they're in the system and they're like, hey, you got to use these people because, you know what I mean? And so I will come find you. No.
No, dude, I feel very strongly about working with people that I love and I already have like a good working relationship with, because I think once you're working with people and they understand you and you understand them, it's just magic when you get there. So
I mean, you guys have a shorthand. Obviously, by now you have a great shorthand, and you know what their capabilities are, and you know what you can get out of them. And again, man, I just get out of the like figure out a way to just. I mean, to not have to answer to anybody is such freedom creatively for you. I mean, I've just been through the process with shows and movies and having to answer to people that I don't necessarily feel are the most creative people, you know?
Yeah. No, dude, definitely.
Yeah. And I so would love to see you pull that off so that we could start showing everybody a way. I mean, maybe there's a possibility we work together and I can try to use some of my Rolodex to try to get you some recognizable people that you could put in with these guys and get more attention and try to figure out a platform that we could then monetize. Like, I mean, because a lot of what's happening now is that back end sharing, right? And people trying to figure out the way. And I've done several films like that where I take a haircut, so on the hopes, and then get super disappointed because it's not there, you know. Yeah, man. That's when I looked at your whole world, I got so excited because I was like, dude, he's so close. He's just so close to being so self-sufficient and being able to create, you know. And I mean, that's the other thing too, right? It's like it could be 5 minutes, it could be 100 minutes, you know. It's just you having the funding, right, to pull that off. Yeah.
I mean, that's really all that like holds me back. If I had the money right now, I would just go make the feature.
Yep.
I wouldn't even, no questions asked. But that is obviously the difficulty, is just where do you get the money?
Well, if you're able to show a return on some of this stuff, right, then you can take that to investors and say, look, this is our plan, you know what I mean? And this is how we're going to monetize it, you know?
Right.
And then maybe it's not a $2 million thing, but it's 100,000 or 200,000, and you get to that next, you know? And then I think if you're monetizing it on some platform that you have, or you know, Louis C.K. did it with his like TV show play thing that he did. And then if you're able to monetize it, it's like you can write the movie you want. It can be the link that you want. It can be anything you want. And I think that's super interesting because we kind of got stuck in this, you know, 15, 30-second clip dopamine shot, right? And so it's like we could kind of help people go back the other way.
Yeah, right. right. No, definitely, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hope, man. I'm the way that I've always been, and the way that I've always kind of felt is that it is just an endurance test, and it's really who can last the longest, and people give up right before they get there, and for me, I've never been more motivated to just find a way, and even if I get 100 no's, I'm like, okay, what can I do now to turn this around? Even with OCD, how many people I had met and sent it to in the industry, they were like, this isn't going to do that well. It's too niche. It's like, it's OCD. No one's going to like it. And lo and behold, it just did
resonate with
numbers
everybody,
online, like everybody. Yeah. You know, so I think definitely believing in yourself as an artist and what you're doing, I think is first and foremost. But yeah, I'm figuring it out, man. I'll figure it out. Where there's a will, there's a way. That's how I've always been.
I'm here, dude. I'm here to help you figure it out. So,
I appreciate it, man.
And then, so, you know, since this is somewhat about casting, some of the outlying characters, the Italian boss and the realtor, like, how did you go about that process, getting those people? Are those people you knew, or?
Yeah, so the realtor is my cousin's fiance, and Ryan is awesome. He's obviously in The Tragic Death of a Frenchman. We co-wrote that one together, and he's also one of the robbers in OCD. And in terms of like the mob boss, and even
the other guy that comes in for the I think I saw him a couple times in your things. The other potential buyer.
So Landon, he was someone who I got. A lot of the other side characters I was able to get through Actors Access, and I just held like an open casting through there. And, you know, all non-union, and they're all just insanely talented. And I had spoken to another filmmaker not that long ago, and he was like, oh, I'm not doing any of that non-union bullshit. And I'm like, dude, there's some really talented people on both sides, obviously, but those people, I kind of relate it to like UFC. You know, it's like you have the big pay-per-view fights, and those are great, but it's like sometimes those fight nights are like the best because it's these dudes like scrapping
so much
to, like,
heart,
get to, like, you know, there's so much heart, and there really is. And like even Roz, my lead, he's on Actors Access, so it's like, and he's an amazing actor, and there's so many of them. So I always held public castings for most of the side roles. And, with OCD in particular, I also had Roz audition for that role. I didn't give him that one because I just wanted to see what he could do.
It's like, dude, I've been working for.
No, he was. No, he was like, okay, you know, I'm willing to prove it, and I obviously had faith in him as an actor, but I think it was just such a different character that I did want to see what he could do before I was like, yeah, let's do it, you know. And
there's definitely a style to that performance that's different than the other stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he, and I also think because he has OCD that he connected to the character a little bit more and could kind of
You didn't cast him, and
understand.
you made him audition, and he even had OCD.
Yeah, I put him through it, man.
Yeah. He kept saying, like, even if you knew, you could have been, I don't know, man. I need
I don't know,
another
dude.
callback from you.
He's just my best friend, so I'm like, I always like, if there's an excuse to just make him do an extra step, I love it.
All right, man. So we're almost to an hour. I want to. What's next for you? What's coming up, and what's the future hold?
Working on just writing and working. I think I've sort of built enough of a base of films and short films that I'm not really interested in short films right now. I'm interested in that next step into a feature, and that's kind of always been my dream of just making a larger scale story or taking one of my concepts and expanding those. And in a way, with In the Valley of the Moon and Frenchman, I've sort of made like a third of a feature right there, because those are about 30 minutes. And so I just kind of want to take that next step. And we had written a feature version of OCD, which we're hopefully going to start pitching this in the next few months is kind of our goal. But like you said, man, I mean, if there's a way that I can find to do it just independently, I would jump at that opportunity.
And yeah,
no
so
questions asked.
how much of it is just old, like, sort of programming and nostalgia for the feature length, as opposed to, because I get it with the shorts, and it's like it's not as like I guess is exciting as a feature, right? And I guess the scope, is it more the scope, or is it more just like I want to prove that I can do it, or?
No, it's just about story. Being able to tell like a character-driven story. I think it can work on a short scale, obviously.
It's
but I
harder,
think
I think, right? It's harder.
It's definitely harder.
Yeah.
But I think making something that's a little bit more expansive and being able to get your, like, even with the OCD feature, it kind of expands on every element of the story that I think just it makes it deeper tenfold on every level. And so that's kind of just always been how I wanted to, is just longer format stories. I've always been drawn to longer format stories. That's kind of where I am. It's not to say I don't love shorts. I think I'm just ready to
we
take
grew up
that
and
jump.
watching features, and you want to. Yeah, I get that. You make a good point too. It's just sort of like it's more canvas to play with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
Social media, Instagram, TikTok, my website is just all Luca Pizzoleo, Pizzoleo. It's a little tricky name, but yeah, you can find
And
me
all
there.
the films are on there, which is great, and you can watch them for free.
Yeah, on my website or YouTube.
Or you could have a button on there that says, donate.
Yeah.
Donate.
I'm gonna add one right after this.
Donate. Anything you can. 25 cents bare minimum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, man, it's a pleasure, dude. I'm excited to see where this goes and where you go, and what you're able to do, because I think what you've accomplished already is phenomenal.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm excited too. I'm excited. I'm just keep chipping away at it.
Our show today was recorded in studio by the good folks at Record ATX. Check them out at recordatx.com. Our theme music is produced by Jonathan Price. You can check out some of the sounds he makes with his project, The Mid-Cities, on Spotify. Follow, subscribe, and smash that like button if you see one. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.